Hello, everyone. My name is Rigley Willis, without the W to all the Cubs fans. But I'm very happy to announce the beginning of my new YouTube channel, sports YouTube channel, called Semi-Average, where we're going to keep everything between the 10 and the 6 seed, just like the Orlando Magic, every season for the rest of NBA history. But with this new channel, I'm going to be talking NBA news, NFL news, rumors, trades, ideas, crazy thoughts, and reactions to some of the biggest events going around in the sports world within those two leagues. We'll get into the MLB every once in a while. Not much of a baseball guy. I'm an Astros fan. And, I've been kind of swept under the rug by the MLB fan base as a whole. So I've kind of lost my baseball persona in a sense. And hockey, I've never, I'm from Texas, UT, Hook 'em Horns. Not a lot of hockey down here. Dallas Stars are good, though, apparently, I think. But with this new podcast, I'm excited to be announcing that I'm going to be uploading every single Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday with an option for an upload on Fridays, whether that be, a stream on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, something like that, Q&As, a reaction to a game that might have happened, something like that. Just my thoughts, maybe less of a more formality on Fridays if it's going to be there. But those Monday, Wednesday, Saturdays are going to be locked in for however many minute episodes. We'll see where it takes us. And I'm really excited to get this thing rolling. So starting off with our first topic of the entire year, we're going to be talking about my favorite team. I'm a diehard for the Bills. Josh Allen is quite literally my father. I've talked to adoption agencies. A lot of people hitting me up. The age difference is something, but hopefully I can figure out a way to be brought up by a man of his stature. No disrespect to Pops. But the Ravens were able to easily take care and dismantle the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know Pittsburgh had a fluke comeback where, they stopped turning the ball over and, Big Ben stopped throwing at the defensive linemen's helmets. Shout out to Antonio Brown when he said that on Undisputed. But it's a big time game. It's the thinking of words here. It's the prime time matchup on Sunday, Baltimore, Buffalo. Now, diving into this game, I've been talking a lot with the rest of Bills Mafia. Shout out Buffalo Fanatics. I was talking to my pops, who's been a Bills fan his entire life. First playoff win in 25 years, by the way. It's the first one I've seen. Over here, I got an old school CJ Spiller jersey hanging up. That's just a testament to how the old days of Buffalo used to be, where me as however old I was, 13, 14, for Christmas, I opened a CJ Spiller jersey out of a box and was happy about it. But now, big things going on in Buffalo. Stephon Diggs breaking records left and right, whether it's franchise or NFL. Josh Allen seems went from, do we need to find another quarterback of the future, to a top 3 player and MVP candidate, and it's all behind the mastermind of Sean McDermott, Brian Daboll, and Billy Beane. Now, this Ravens team, they have an elite secondary. Marcus Peters, almost said Earl Thomas, but I'm not going to. There's playmakers everywhere in the back four for Baltimore. And when you look at this game, you think Buffalo's high-powered offense, Lamar's godlike talent, and the rest of Baltimore's run game that has put them in the position they are in. I saw a stat today that the Ravens in the last 6 games, including last night's win over Pittsburgh, have more rushing yards in those 6 games than 7 teams did in the entire season this year. Baltimore is bringing old school football back, and we're seeing the best of the air raid, the best of the ground game meet in the division, not even the conference finals. But anyways, talking about this game, I couldn't really get a read on whether this is going to be a 41-34 game or a 17-13 game. And looking more and more into it, I really believe that the tempo is going to dictate pretty much everything from the start. Both offensive coordinators and quarterbacks like to take advantage of the defense being on their heels, not coming out ready. They like to hit you deep when you're not expecting it. Ticky-tacky passes up and down the field, hit you with the long bomb. I mean, that's Josh Allen's go-to, right? hit Diggs and Beasley for 8 yards a couple times, then uncork it with a 50-yard bomb downfield. That's pretty much, when it was 17-10 in that Buffalo and Indianapolis game, that's what essentially, it didn't put it away, but in the moment, all of Bills Mafia was like, we're getting our first playoff win when Allen hit Diggs going down the sideline. But yeah, I really think in this game, I think it's all going to come down to whoever decides to dictate the tempo, and whether if that sacrifices, a field goal when you're at the 35, when you could punt it deep. That's what I mean. It's just what's going to come down. You play to win the game. Shout out Herm Edwards, Arizona State. I'm an Arizona State student, but I am doing school online in Austin, Texas. Hook 'em. It's pretty simple to get to the two different hand things for my two colleges. But with that, I don't know where I was going with that, to be completely honest. But when you look at, I put on this little Ringer-esque slow news day thing, shootout or defensive stalwart. I really think that the Bills are going to trust in their offense early, and they're going to hit, it all depends if, obviously Zach Moss is out for the rest of the postseason, which is going to put a big hindrance on the Bills, even though Antonio Williams played really well in Week 17, and we're going to be losing a lot because Bills fans know motor, Devin Singleyard, we like to call him, right? It's going to be – see, I put that question on there because I didn't know coming into this little sit-down. But I really think it's going to be a shootout game, and it's going to be up to Baltimore to keep up with Buffalo in this game. And what the Bills are going to have to do on defense, I'm going to skip the Allen Diggs versus the mean Baltimore secondary and go straight to how Buffalo is going to be able to contain Lamar. I think it's going to have to be rush 3 or 4, contain the edges, and just have Milano, Edmonds, and Klein sit in that middle high zone with manned-up corners. And I think that's the only way you're going to win. With a deep safety, Micah Hyde, and have Jordan Poyer come down. I mean, that's what they've been running all year. Throw in a nickel corner if you want instead of an extra linebacker or down lineman. But it's going to come down to containing the hashes and it's the Trey White whole entendre of defense, right? Give up the 7-yard completion. Don't get beat downfield. It's why he's a top 4 or 5 cornerback. Last year we were saying he was a top 2 cornerback. He's fallen off a little bit. I think teams are targeting him more and understanding that he's going to give up the 11-yard out route pretty much every single time. If your quarterback can get it there outside the hashes and make that completion. But yeah. With Buffalo having to contain Lamar, it's going to come down to the linebackers. I'm really scared for Tremaine Edmonds, who historically this season, I'm a Bills fan, right? I don't know how he made the Pro Bowl. It's pretty hilarious. Like Jordan Poyer, I thought would get right in, leader of the defense, team captain, first on the team in tackles, third in the entire league in solo tackles from the safety position, right in for the Pro Bowl, but he didn't get the Pro Bowl, right? Come on. Trent Williams didn't make it. What the hell? But I'm really scared for Edmonds because Bills fans can recall. You look back to Week 3, Week 4, Week 5, Week 6. Edmonds was coming off of an injury, and he looked like the slowest linebacker in the history of linebackers. It would be an outside run, and creeping towards the running back as jets down the sideline, hoping Micah Hyde or Jordan Poyer makes a play, saving Edmonds' ass. The good thing is now he's a lot more healthy and he's more mobile. But I truly believe that Baltimore is going to realize that Milano and Klein, I guarantee they already have, are going to be able to. I know Lamar has that crazy highlight of him juking Milano out of his shoes, but it's really going to come down to Klein and Milano being able to contain, keep outside, and contain the middle with that little bridge area between the contain area and the two sides of the zone. I really think they're going to be able to not stop Lamar Jackson, because I don't think that's ever happened except Tennessee maybe, but they're going to be able to contain him. And when he tries to rush outside, it's a 6 or 7 yard game rather than a 48-yard touchdown run at Pittsburgh. But it all comes down to Tremaine Edmonds. So to any and all football aficionados watching the primetime game between Buffalo and Baltimore, I urge you to watch Tremaine Edmonds. And any play that Lamar Jackson's going to have that's going to be big, you're going to find yourself watching Tremaine Edmonds being late to his spot, having a bad read, anything like that. I think the secondary of Buffalo is going to be fine against Baltimore. I think Trey White, you look at what Baltimore has as receiving options other than Mandrews, who's going to have look what tight ends have done against Buffalo this year, including last week, where Jack Doyle had the game of his career. Tight ends uncork us. And Mark Andrews, because he's an absolute freak of nature tight end, he's going to have a big day, and Baltimore's going to try to target him the whole game. But when you look at the corners for Buffalo, I think Trey's going to have a fine time dealing with Hollywood Brown. He might have 2 catches all game. And you look at the rest of the receiving options for Baltimore, it's like, where are they going to go? And that's what they haven't been throwing the ball much recently. It's just run down your throat the whole time. You commit and run defense all the way, we'll hit you over top, right? But it's going to be awesome to watch that game. I'm so excited. I'm nervous. I'm about to piss my pants, I think, thinking about this, even though it's 6 days away. But on Friday, I want to get more in depth. We might go over some film, if I can find any, on the outside linebackers for Buffalo, Milano and Klein, having to defend against Lamar Jackson, whether you're going to contain or drop back into pass coverage. So that one read is a big, big difference, and that's how Baltimore hits you. They attack you from that spot. But moving on to the next thing, Bills Mafia, by the way, let's go. It's the best time of my life. The Bills are rolling, 13-3 season, hella franchise records, took care of Indianapolis, even though it was a scary one. And that fumble call, I was in a Pluckers sitting with my family, and they, I'm like, they're overturning that. Come on, it's touched him. It was Poyer's using his awareness, waiting for him to get up, then touching him, then ripping. It's a perfect safety play. That's something you can't even teach. And they just didn't. No one knows, but I was screaming and cussing and nearly got Bills Mafia kicked out of the Pluckers bar on a Saturday. But we're okay now. We're on to the next round. Let's move on now to the team that the Ravens took care of pretty heftily, and that is the terrible offensive towel of Pittsburgh. Now, we knew that their offense was going to be lackluster coming into this game. And a good buddy of mine, Daniel Alameda, looking back week 9, I think he said, was, the reason Pittsburgh's going to lose whoever they play in the first game, assuming that they drop from the 2 or from the 1 where they were at one point to the 2 or 3, it's going to be because of their offense. They're not going to score much. They're going to turn the ball over. The run game's not going to be there, even though when you think of Pittsburgh, hypothetically, you're an NFL fan that hasn't been paying attention much this year. Oh, Pittsburgh's run game, they're going to be able to, the O-line solid, the run game solid. You got Roethlisberger hitting slants to Deontay Johnson and Juju. It's going to be great. The offense is going to be rolling. It wasn't. And was that Baltimore's front 7? Could be. Patrick Queen played like a monster in that game, and it was awesome to watch. But since that game's already over, we're not going to look in the past. I want to look to the future for Pittsburgh, and I think it's about time where Big Ben hangs it up. And it's a big end of an era. You look back on his history. Who is this 6'7" burger guy coming out of Miami, Ohio? He's supposed to be the savior of our franchise? Yes, Pittsburgh, and he was. Legendary moments. He came back this year after being injured. Everyone counted him out. And I even said, I'm like, Big Ben's still in the league, man. Steelers are going to be good. Can't count him out. Big Ben's Big Ben. You can't sack him. And he's going to hit you all over the field too. But it's looking like after that last game, you go back to what AB said on Undisputed. I think I mentioned it already. Ben has been making worse and worse decisions as he's grown old, which is usually what you don't see. But in that Cleveland game, it was just wait, did I say Baltimore beat Pittsburgh? No, I didn't say it. You know what I'm saying. In that Cleveland Pittsburgh game, the one time he hit the defensive lineman in the face on the pass when it's an outside of the hashes, 11 yards downfield throw. It's almost Cam Newton-esque at this point, which is I'm gonna throw up on camera thinking about Cam Newton throwing the football. Jesus, good thing he's out of New England. Even though Bills Mafia, I hate the Pats. I just felt so bad for him this year, watching Cam Newton play quarterback for that historic franchise. But with Big Ben retiring, And with the state of the roster where Pittsburgh's at right now, they have to look to what is the best possible quarterback option that will keep us in contention for the next couple of years. I don't think you worry about running back right now because there were rumors. Does Pittsburgh go quarterback in the first or second round if they don't sign some of the guys that are listed on that page there? And I think you worry about, you get the franchise quarterback first and you worry about running back later, i.e. Buffalo. Look how it's worked out for them. Devin Singletary, he's going to be gone. Zach Moss will be until his rookie contract's over. We'll find a new one. It's simple. But looking at some of the options, assuming Big Ben retires, of course, these are listed in order of what I think would work best. And to start off, Sam Darnold, I think, would be the perfect option if New York takes a quarterback in round one. I've heard rumors Penei Sewell is being rumored. Maybe they take Zach Wilson instead of Justin Fields. Of course, the Jets are going to throw a monkey wrench in this whole average draft situation. Take the quarterback, Justin Fields. He's amazing. He's going to open up your offense and do crazy things. Don't get a field general system guy. Fix the system once you find out who your star players are. Get some real playmakers on offense other than Jamison Crowder. 5'7" Jamison Crowder, right? But the Jets, hypothetically, we're going to assume that they're going to take Justin Fields or Zach Wilson at number 2, meaning Darnold at that point is expendable. And I don't think his value is very high. And I think New York knows that, and I think Pittsburgh knows that. So when you're looking at the future of the Steelers position, because obviously, if you were to look up Big Ben retiring right now, it's going to say, they're going to Mason Rudolph next year. No, they're not. No, they're not. There's no way they go Rudolph next year. That obviously didn't work. Your team is built now. Cam Hayward, Stephon Tuitt, all these guys are getting old. Take advantage of where your roster's at now. Your offensive line is slowly dwindling out. The running back room is all banged up and old. Now's the time for Pittsburgh. And if, some of those dinked passes don't end up being interceptions, maybe if Pittsburgh's defense their front seven looked a little bit better against Hunt and Chubb throughout that game, then we're looking at a different situation, but it didn't. And I think that stems from fixing the quarterback position. So Sam Darnold looking for Pittsburgh, right? I think a change of scenery, it's very Josh Rosen-esque. A change of scenery would be very, very good for Darnold at this point. Because, coming into college, we all knew what he was. And I remember it was quarterback time for the Bills. We're going to take a quarterback at 7, whoever's there. I'm like, please, Sam Darnold, the whole time. And I was upset we got Josh Allen. 3 years later, I'm sitting happy. But Sam Darnold, he's built for the type of football that Pittsburgh's trying to play right now. Hit you with the run for a lot of the game. Don't let Big Ben get sacked. Get the ball out quick 6-yard completions, 5-yard completions that end up being 11 with your playmakers and Juju and Claypool and Johnson and whoever else they bring in the offseason. I think Darnold could come into a position with Pittsburgh, new scenery. You're in an old, historic football team that is built around success. I think it'd be a really good thing for him and Pittsburgh's organization. It's almost a match made in heaven. And I think you could get Darnold for a second. And at that point, good job. In your first round, take Najee Harris. And then, boom, there's your quarterback running back duo for the next 5 years at least. So that's one thing. Another one I wanted to look at, and this is shout out to one of my classmates at Arizona State, Anthony Ravazio. He's a Steelers fan. Sorry, man, but you brought me the idea of Matt Stafford, and I started thinking about that, and I'm like, oh, that's almost perfect. That's almost perfect for what you would want right now, right? You look at it, it's almost the same situation as Darnold, except I think Stafford and Detroit are in a point in time where it could be like Stafford could essentially say to Detroit, I'm leaving or you're trading me. So do one of those things. And I think his value might honestly drop a little bit in terms of trade value if Pittsburgh was to explore that. And, Stafford, we know what Stafford can do. One of the most underrated players of our generation. Fantasy god also. But that could be really interesting. Another one, Jacoby Brissett, who backed up Phillip Rivers in their loss to the Bills. I'm going to keep bringing that up. But I think Brissett could be an awesome one. He's on a 1-year deal with Indianapolis. At the end of the season, he's probably going to be looking around the league, see if there's better options. Assuming Phillip Rivers doesn't retire, which is another thing we could get into. And I think Brissett could be a great, Pittsburgh wants to put off finding that paying a lot of money or drafting a quarterback early. Bring in Jacoby Brissett. We saw what he did with New England with a good team around him, and he was bad for Indianapolis when he played for them last year. But was it horrendous? Was it Teddy Bridgewater in Carolina this year? No, he was formidable to say the least, and he's a running option, which is fun. And you could bring that to Pittsburgh. We haven't seen that for a while. Then two other ones I put in here: Mac Jones, Kyle Trask. You could get Mac Jones mid-late first. Might have to trade up for him because I've heard teams are thinking about taking him, early teens. And Kyle Trask is a second-round guy out of Florida. He's got great arm talent, put it all over the field. Not the greatest decision maker, but it's something to work with. So hypothetically, we could see one of these situations where Brissett and Trask are brought in next year for Pittsburgh, assuming that Big Ben retires. And that's the big looming decision that all of this is based around, is that Big Ben's not going to be back next year. What are they going to do? So moving on, I'm primarily an NBA guy, just stating this first episode. So I want to talk about one of my favorite teams this year that I've been watching a lot, and that is the Indiana Pacers, who are officially 9 games into the season, my sleeper team for the NBA season. Now, the reason for this is 2 massive steps from these 2 guys right here, Sabonis and Brogdon. Now, shout out Malcolm Brogdon real quick. In fantasy basketball, I haven't had Kyrie or AD, and you have been carrying me, my guy. Thank you very much. But Damontas Sabonis I want to get into first. I mean, he looks like an entirely new player almost, much like Jeremy Grant, where they're much more comfortable around the perimeter. They want to drive more, shooting an extra 3 a game, making a whole 3 in his averages through 9 games is very impressive. Obviously, Sabonis' field goal percentage is what's going to carry him when you talk about what's he so great at. But look at this. The rebounding has not dipped from where it was last year when people projected that it was, and he's averaging 6 assists a game. You're looking at a guy right now who's averaging 21.5, 12.5, and 6 with all right defense. I mean, it's not great, but it's there. And, a 6'10" body to move around that's quick, that's good defense already. You got the physical tools, right? He's shooting efficiently, and the Pacers are 6-3. I don't know if it says on this on Basketball Reference, but they are number 1 in the Central Division, and they seem to be the favorites for that division, along with Milwaukee. Forgot they exist. Maybe they're second in the Central. But I think Indiana's going to finish around the 4 or 5 seed, and when we get into why, there's 2 key things for small market teams to beat the big, amazing, pay for the great players kind of teams like Brooklyn, like LA. And that is efficient shooting, doesn't matter where it's from essentially, and good defense. Now, when we look at these 2 players up front, what do you get with both of them? It's highly efficient basketball. They're great passers. They're unselfish. They can shoot the ball. With Sabonis shooting where he is now, just under 50%, they can both shoot the ball. And here's the thing. Brogdon and Sabonis take the highest volume of shots on their team, right? Number 1, number 2. I think I wrote it down. Brogdon's averaging 17.7 shots attempted per game, right? Yeah, and Sabonis is averaging 15, I believe. Yeah. Now, if you add those 2 together, you find out their field goal percentage between the 2 of them. It's 52.5% for the 2 guys that shoot the most on your team. That is, that's Spurs basketball. That's exactly what you want. It's perfect. That's how you beat the bigger market teams that are buying guys like Kyrie, KD, LeBron, Drew Holiday. You know what I mean? And I'm really excited for this Pacers team. Now, when we look into another thing that I've yet to bring up, they've been doing all of this. Yeah, they are first in the Central. They've been doing all of this without the guy that put them on the map last year in the bubble, TJ Warren, who's injured until I believe it's mid-February, which is big for them. I mean, second he gets back, they're gonna explode. I don't want that. No. TJ Warren is mid-February, exactly. And Oladipo's back now. So it's they run the 4 set that they have with Turner at the 5 of Brogdon, Oladipo, Warren, and Sabonis is quick, athletic, defending players that can all score from 3 levels, and that's almost exactly what you want from a basketball mind, right? And the mobility on offense that Bjorken's brought in It's amazing. It's no more. Remember the Pacers when Oladipo was running for MVP? He was like top 8 in MVP voting in that 2018 season. He was good. It was just spread the team out wide, have one big in the low block, one on the low in the low corner, and they would just have Oladipo start at the top of the key, sprint to the 3-point line. If the defender sagged off, he's shooting it. If the defender comes up, he's blowing by you. It's a dish off or a finish at the rim. Their offense has evolved so much further from that at this point. They're passing more. It's drives and cuts. It's paint touches, which shout out Coach Schwanek, Dripping Springs High School. Paint touches wins you basketball games. Malcolm Brogdon is one of the greatest I've ever seen in this. Every single possession, you don't even realize what he's doing, but when he drives and is just able to engage two defenders, it's simple basketball. It's a kick. Oladipo's open. One more pass. Warren, when he's healthy, is open in the corner, open three. The offense is sick. The thing about Indiana that I think might hurt them is their defense. I think it's in team rankings. We can look at this. Yeah. Is their defense. Let's find the Pacers here. Okay, so looking at Indiana, they're tops in the league in amount of turnovers. Shout out Malcolm Brogdon. Let's see. Can I get this thing to go away, please? Thank you. 3-point percentage, offensive rating, multitude of other things. You look at what hinders them. It's not necessarily their 3-point percentage. It's much like the Spurs last year. I remember everyone was talking about the Spurs and their 3-point enigma last year, which was they don't shoot any, but they make a lot of them. So why not shoot more? I don't know. I think they're just working things out. The injuries have been tough. They've been without TJ Warren and Oladipo a little bit. Oladipo's back and healthy now, but they're missing a lot of guys in the rotation, like Jeremy Lamb as well, who's a pretty good shooter for them. And I think Aaron Holiday's healthy now, which is good. He's a good 3-point shooter as well. But the team seems to be just on defense, they have pieces there. You know, Brogdon was an ACC Defensive Player of the Year. Oladipo, we know what he is defensively. And Sabonis is a 6'10", 240 guy that moves like a small forward. So why wouldn't the team be good at defense? Miles Turner's one of the best shot blockers in the league. They have very much gone to the Houston Rockets reverse defensive look, where give up the mid-range at all costs, have good shot protectors at the rim, and have good perimeter defenders outside, and they kind of just give you somewhat open to contested twos. It's really weird to watch. You're watching a Pacers game, Brogdon gets beat off a dribble, Turner never steps up, Sabonis never steps up. They go, we'll let you have your mid-range jumper. We're going to get this rebound, and it hasn't really worked out for them so far, but, you know, tons of scheming goes into that, and I think things will change. They don't get to the free throw line a lot, which I figured they'd get more free throws. But, I mean, at the beginning of the year, Sabonis was on fire. Brogdon has been probably the most efficient guard in the NBA this year. I mean, you look at his numbers, and I know it's crazy to say, and I always do this, but how are these two guys not in MVP conversation? Brogdon is averaging 23, 7, and 4, 2 steals. He's averaging more steals and turnovers, starts at point guard, and plays 37 minutes a game. That is insane. That's so crazy. Imagine if Russ could play with the efficiency of Brogdon. He'd be the best player ever. You know what I mean? But Malcolm Brogdon has been insane, shooting 51% from the field, or from just twos, 49% from the field, just under 50. And he's shooting, I believe it was 47. Yeah, there it is, 47.5 from 3. He's nearly 50, 40, 90 again, like he was last year. Malcolm Brogdon needs some MVP consideration on his name. Second-round pick, too. We haven't seen a second-round pick being we haven't heard second-round pick and MVP ever. And Sabonis, same thing. It's like these two guys looking at where the state of the team is at for Indiana, because obviously you need to be on a contending team to win MVP or be in the consideration. They're 6-3. They're above Milwaukee in the Central. And they have two guys that are playing out of their minds. Sabonis, we already talked about it. 21.5, 12.5, 6 assists, a little over half a steal and half a block a game, which is, awesome. Shooting 56% from the field, shooting a career high 42% from the three-point line. I'm not counting 2018 because he only attempted 0.2 threes a game. And he's making a whole 3 a game, which he hasn't done in his career ever. So I think not only should Sabonis be in the most improved player consideration, because even though he was an all-star last year, his mentality on the court. He's playing like a superstar, which is a big people don't I feel like people don't talk. Let's just give it to the guy who went up from 8 points a game to 16. That I would like a player like this to win most improved. And Brogdon too could also be in that conversation as somehow averaging more steals than turnovers. That's more impressive than Kawhi averaging more steals than fouls or having more steals than fouls. But yeah, that's my whole dynamic about the Pacers team. I'm really excited for them. I think their defense is, going to end up like when they play, hypothetically, let's say they're the 4, Miami's the 5, Brooklyn's the 1, and Chicago's the 8, right? I'm just throwing those aren't my real prediction. I'm just giving you a scenario. Brooklyn moves on. Pacers take care of the Heat in 6. That series, I just don't see how you beat KD and Kyrie with a team like that. But the given way to do it, the Spurs have done it. Dallas has done it. Detroit has done it. It's efficiency where they already are at. They shoot hella efficient. I'd like to see them shoot more threes. I know Brogdon shoots a lot of threes, but Sabonis, you're only averaging 2.3 attempts per game. I mean, shoot that rock. You're a superstar now. Let it fly. And when Warren gets back, it's more three-point shooting. When Jeremy Lamb gets back, that's more three-point shooting. It's going to open up for them. But the thing that they really need to work on if they want to be a team that competes this year, and when I say compete, I mean truly compete, being a top 16 that people are projecting to win the finals. Someone's doing it. Someone out there. You got to work on that defense. And I think that comes down to a new head coach who's offensive-minded and Bjorken. And I think the defense will come because they have the pieces to be good at defense. It's just a mentality thing at this point. From what I've watched, that's what it seems like to me. Okay, moving on. We're going to get into this thing that I'm going to be doing once every single week on Mondays. It's a Monday special, if you will, and that's prospect scouting. Now, we're going to be doing a lot of different variables to this. Today, I wanted to start out with 3 players you've never heard of as the theme. But we can get into, the top 3 guys in the class, top 3 guys next year, who are the late round sleepers, what players should contending teams make. We're going to be doing a whole bunch of variances on this with our scouting. Now, the first player I want to talk about is junior David Duke, who is a wing out of Providence. He actually got some love from Bleacher Report today. But there he is. He's got that, Lou Dort build. He's 6'5", but he can play the 3 in the NBA, even though he plays it now. I think he can play the 3 in the NBA due to his frame. He's pretty big, and he moves quickly, which is good. But here's the thing. You look at this, 2020, 2021 stats, 20 points, 6 rebounds, 4.5 assists. That already stands out, right? The field goal percentage is all right at just under 46%. Now look here. In 2020, 2021, in 12 games, David Duke is shooting 46.7% from 3. 46.7% from 3, and he's averaging 20 points a game. Now, I'm not a big fan of drafting juniors and seniors in the NBA draft, just where the landscape of the NBA is today. But this guy, this is insane. And the fact that he doesn't have media attention is nuts. And you look at some of his games against Butler, 22, 13, and 8. Against Xavier in a loss, 36 and 3. 24, 6, and 5 against DePaul in double overtime, all shooting great in those games. He had a terrible game against Creighton. I don't know if anyone watched that. It was the Zagorowski versus David Duke game for me. 2 really interesting prospects that are coming up in this draft. But Creighton ended up winning on they missed a 3, put it back at the buzzer. It was pretty cool. But yeah, he had a terrible game in that game. He didn't shoot good. He had a couple threes, which was nice. But you score 30 points, and I'm assuming that's like what? He probably shot like 7 of 9 or 5 of 7. 5 of 7. I can't think of the math off the top of my head. But David Duke looks legit. And the thing that's really taken a bump from his previous season, where he was still shooting amazing from 3 at 42%, average 12 points a game, is his playmaking ability, which has skyrocketed this year. You look at the numbers, he's only gone up 1.3 assists per game. But when he has the rock in his hands, we've seen step backs, post fades off the dribble, quick drives, double crosses. The guy's really gotten into his bag in the offseason. And Providence is actually looking like a good squad. They're a sleeper, end up being a 10 or 11 seed in the tournament that goes far, which those are always my favorite teams. But David Duke, I'm really excited for this guy. He's the perfect player to come in to, an early second rounder for a bad team that's looking for a guard that can score 15 off the bench at night, i.e., let's say Charlotte's done with Malik Monk and they want to bring this guy in. They take him 36 overall. It's a perfect fit. Cool name, too. But David Duke is, remember the name. It's the combination of his enhanced playmaking and dribbling ability with the already amazing shooting percentage. And he's not too bad of a defender either. The tools are there. He's got the Lou Dort build. And Lou Dort is strictly a stand at the three-point line, shoot open threes, and play good defense. But I think David Duke could be a lot more than that, and a lot more where Lou Dort is already. But my player comparison, which is going to go with every single prospect that we do, my player comparison for David Duke out of Providence is Malik Beasley plus. I see a lot of the defensive capabilities. I see the shot-making capabilities. And as with Malik Beasley this year, I like the playmaking and ball handling that has progressed throughout his career. And I'm really excited for David Duke, who's going to be probably a late first to mid-second pick if I had to put it in one of those, boxes right now. That's where I'd put him. But David Duke, I'm really excited about this kid. He's older, which kind of sucks, but there's so many players that, that happens. And he could be one of those guys who's he's accustomed to getting buckets. Championship team loses, a championship contending team loses a big piece. Bring in David Duke, man. Give him a shot. He looks legit. And is it against good defenses in, Providence's Big East? Not really. Creighton's a great defensive team, and so is DePaul, even though, 95-90 was in double OT. And Butler's always solid. But he's been able to produce at this volume with as many shots as he's taken and still be amazing and efficient. It's awesome. So going into our next player, this is a little bit of bias. My dad is a big Syracuse guy, which has led to me being a big Syracuse guy. That's why I'm a Bills fan to start. But this next prospect has taken a big jump this year, and that is Quincy Guerrier out of Syracuse. He's 6'7", 220. Ideal build for, that combo forward, Jeremy Grant type. I know that's a Syracuse comparison, but it quite literally is how Quincy Guerrier plays. This year he's averaging 15.79, little under assists, and just under 60% from the field. He's had a couple stretches of bad games. That Pittsburgh game, I'm not going to talk about that. It was abysmal for Syracuse as a whole and for Quincy as well. But you look into some of his games against Buffalo, 27-11. He had 18-16 against Northeastern. Not the greatest competition, but in a game where you scored 62 points, putting up 18-16, that's pretty impressive. And against Boston College, 14-5 in his last 5. But the big thing for me with Quincy Guerrier, and it's modern NBA, man, it's the jump in the shooting percentage right here. And I try to keep my biases aside, and he just ended up in this under the radar prospect look. He's shooting 42.9% from the three, and he's most effective from the corner. It's like almost every single time Syracuse needs a big bucket, down the stretch, Joe Girard's missed 4 threes already. Find QG in the corner, and it's a guaranteed 3. The kid doesn't miss when he's shooting triples in the corner. Very PJ Tucker-esque in that regard. And in that video on the right, it is showing him hit one from the right side. Oh, that's not even Syracuse. Why would that be up? What? Whatever. Brain doesn't work. But the Canadian seems to be very impactful. His rebounding and tenacity has gone up a lot too. He's a motor guy. You could see him playing for a team like Miami or Toronto, Milwaukee, something like that. Come in, hit open threes, be a big body on defense, battle on boards, shoot effectively. It's a perfect match made in heaven. He's only a sophomore. You see the jump, not only in minutes, but in points, rebounds, shooting percentage, both field goal and three-point and free throw. He's improved all across the board, all while being a veteran and leader on this team. And I don't know if a lot of people out there listening watch Syracuse games. No one would consider Quincy Guerrier to be the best player on this team right now, but he has been the most impactful by far. And the one that, if Quincy plays good, the team's going to win, essentially, is what it feels like going into every game. So, QG, I met you at the Carrier Dome. Syracuse Duke, you came in, it was 2018-19. You were there to visit just after you committed. He's a nice guy. He shook my hand. It's nice. Massive hand, by the way. Kawhi Leonard-esque. Right there. Nuts. But yeah, Quincy Guerrier, I could see him. He hasn't skyrocketed any boards yet, but I could see it happening Right now, I give him a mid-second to stays at Syracuse grade, where if he doesn't get drafted, he's going to go back and be the best player on the squad next year. But I'm really excited for Quincy. He's one of my favorite Syracuse players ever already, just because of his play style and because I met the guy. But good luck to Quincy and the rest of the season for the Orange. I mean, the improvements are everywhere, and watching him play, the fluidity is awesome. So let's get into our third and last. My bad. Player comparison. I want to say Jeremy Grant, but he's not very Jeremy Grant-ish. Maybe a Paul Millsap? Yeah, I'll go Paul Millsap as my player comparison for Quincy Guerrier. Also, he's listed at 6'7", but the hair makes him 6'10". I'm just saying. It does matter. Now, going into my last player, this one's kind of weird and freaky, but this is Connor Vanover, who is a transfer to Arkansas. I'm not sure where he played before, but he wasn't very effective. Shot better from three. But the reason why I like this kid is 7'3", and he already has a bit of frame built to him already. You look across all of college basketball, there's numerous 7 foot to 7'3" guys that either only deal in the paint or they don't have a frame built out. This kid has got his frame relatively built out. He needs 2 more years, essentially, to be at NBA playing level. His stats aren't amazing, but the thing that this guy can do is snipe threes. His percentage isn't there because he's been trailing off recently. But in the beginning of the season, Vanover was shooting lights out, and the ability is there. He's got a fluid jumper that starts mid-chest area. He doesn't bring it down from his waist, which is a good thing to see already. He's very Kristaps Porzingis-esque, except that he doesn't have the rim running capabilities that Porzingis does have, which is something that he's going to have to learn from. And he has that Taco Fall persona in a sense where, is he going to score inside? Obviously, because he's 7'3". He might miss 3 layups and get all of his rebounds, but he'll put it in, and it'll be fine. But Vanover, I wanted to keep this one brief. It's just I want to get all these players out to you guys just so you can have some knowledge over. He's a sophomore. He's older because he had a redshirt year in between his transfer year. He's probably, if he stays at Arkansas or leaves, regardless, he's not going to have a lot of draft buzz, but he could be a really, super cheap undrafted free agent availability, and bringing in a 7'3" guy to work on as a project that can shoot the three already is something that every GM is asking for. He's only averaging a block a game. Oh, nope, my bad. He's averaging 2 blocks a game. Okay, that's a lot better than I thought he was at. But yeah, Connor Vanover. Player comparison. Oh, who was that guy that played for the Knicks? Luke Cornett. I'll give Connor Vanover to Luke Cornett player comparison. I have no idea why he's listed at forward. That's weird. But yeah, those are going to be the last of my player rankings. We went through David Duke, a Malik Beasley comparison, Quincy Guerrier, a Paul Millsap comparison, and Connor Vanover, a Luke Cornett comparison. I'm not forgetting about Luke Cornett. I know. I try to keep my NBA knowledge up to par. All right. Oh, my draft prediction for Vanover, very, very late second. Maybe he goes 59th overall. Someone wants to take a flyer on him. Just have him secured so he doesn't get to the undrafted free agent market, to staying at Arkansas until he's a senior, then coming out. Hopefully by then, if he stays at Arkansas until his senior year, maybe he averages 15, 12, and 3 while shooting above 34% from 3. That'll definitely get him some draft picks. Okay, now going into the final topic. It's the game of the day, another series I want to bring to you. And unlike prospect scouting, which is only a Monday thing, game of the day is going to be every single day that I do a podcast. There's going to be some game out there that I can talk about, just give my thoughts on. And boy, do we have one hell of a matchup to start our podcast out on, as it is the college football championship. We've got number 1 Bama versus number 3, the Ohio State. Now, the big thing going into this game, we can talk about how Ohio State's going to work on defense against this high-loaded Bama offense. We can talk about the Mac Jones, Justin Fields dynamic, who's going to have the better game, who's going to improve their draft stock or worsen it at Justin Fields. But one player I want to talk about is Jalen Waddle, who, despite his teammate winning the Heisman Trophy, I believe he's the most dynamic and talented player on their entire roster. Waddle combines Devontae Smith's, deep speed and route running with the physicality and go get it kind of mentality that he has already. Jalen Waddle is ridiculous. Obviously, he had that surgery and he's been out for 10 weeks now? 10 weeks, exactly. 10 weeks ago from his ankle surgery. Now, Waddle, like I said, I believe is the most dynamic player on this entire Crimson Tide offense. He, going into this game, is going to be listed as a game time decision. Where does it say it again? Yes, right here. Medically, he can play in the championship game. One of the best receivers. I mean, when we're looking at the NFL draft a couple months into the future, there's going to be three guys everyone's going to be talking about: Smith, Waddle, and Jamar Chase. I think Jamar Chase is going to end up being the number one receiver in this class, if not Jamar Chase. I meant Waddle when I said that, by the way. But yeah, Jalen Waddle, it's going to be a big, big question mark going into this game. I mean, it's almost as if Alabama doesn't even need him. We saw what they did to Notre Dame, even though it should have been Texas A&M in that game. Even though I have a UT shirt on, I'm going to say that Texas A&M should have been the 4th seed. I'm going to say that until the day I die. It was blasphemous that Notre Dame got in that game, and we saw what happened. It was, I mean, I remember my game prediction going into that was 54-13 Bama. It wasn't very close, but I mean, that was the general feel of the nation. Texas A&M might have had a chance. They didn't lose by very much to Bama, and they had their backup quarterback when they played earlier in the season. Kellen Mond could have made a big difference in that ballgame. Anyways, we're looking at Bama, Ohio State. An offensive shootout is guaranteed, I think. I think for the first time in a while, it's almost like Bama's offense is better than Bama's defense, which is like a cardinal sin of like football rules. But it's true. It's what we're looking at. It's Mac Jones being able to command his offense up the field in 4 minutes or less, getting easy touchdowns left and right. It's the run game. It's the elite offensive line that's always there at Bama, even though most Bama offensive linemen don't pan out in the NFL. And their receiving core is ridiculous talented. And with Ohio State, it's the same thing. You got Justin Fields with Chris Olave and the kid from Lake Travis, 20 minutes from where I grew up, his name, Garrett Wilson. They have dynamic playmakers everywhere too. And the transfer, I'm going to forget his name. Pardon me while I look this up. Trey Sermon, remembered it right before I was about to type it. Good save. Trey Sermon had a ridiculous game against Clemson, where I did pick Ohio State to beat Clemson. Pretty proud of that. But Trey Sermon just blew the tails off of Clemson's defense, burning players out in open field, quick cuts, finding the correct hole. When you're supposed to go in the B gap, it gets collapsed, bounce it outside, see if you can get to the sideline for 6 yards instead of 2. He was doing that in that game. Now it's going to come down to defenses, I think, because I think the offenses are going to be able to move the ball at will tonight. And when you look defensively at what we're going to be looking at in this game, I think my gut wants to go with Alabama is going to be able to make more stops than Ohio State is due to Alabama's offense. Both defenses, I would say, are middle of the park in terms of the grand scheme of all, in terms of the best teams in all of college football. I'd say Bama's like 7th and Ohio State's like 11th, maybe. Good linebackers on both sides. Dylan Moses for Bama. You got Pete Werner for Ohio State. They make tons of plays. They're good in the run game. They're good in pass coverage. Elite corners like Patrick Surtain. He's going to have a hell of a night having to try to guard Olave and Garrett Wilson. I think he's going to do a good job, though. I don't think Garrett Wilson's going to have a great night. But, yeah, it's going to come down to if Alabama's defense can stop Ohio State's offense. If that can happen just straight up, that sentence, then Bama takes this game pretty easily, I believe. Now, going down, we have a hell of a quarterback battle tonight as well, as Mac Jones and Justin Fields will be squaring off. Both have very high NFL draft range, with Justin Fields being projected to go number 2. Even though the Jets might screw that up somehow, I don't know. Yeah, take Zach Wilson instead of Justin Fields. I don't know what they're doing. Whatever. Maybe they just want to continue to throw to Jamison Crowder for the rest of their tenure in franchise. So they want the quarterback that'll just drop it off 6 yards every time. What are you doing, Jets? Actually, no. Jets, please take Zach Wilson so the Bills don't have to play Justin Fields for the next 15 years. Please. Thank you. But anyways, Justin Fields versus Mac Jones. It's going to be awesome. It's been hyped up for a while now. Two of the best. If you want to argue the two top three quarterbacks in college football alone, not looking NFL draft, it's going to be an awesome game. But I think it's going to come down to Mac Jones being more comfortable with the team around him than Justin Fields. We saw Justin Fields struggle against puny, I don't want to call them puny, but not at the level of Alabama defenses like Northwestern. And I think Mac Jones is a lot more mentally prepared for this game in a sense. And I think Bama's going to come out on top tonight. There it is. I mean, it's what everyone's thinking, but I said it. Crazy of me, crazy sports analyst moment. But my game prediction going into it, I'm going to say 45-32 Alabama, with the MVP of the game being Jalen Waddle if he plays. If Jalen Waddle doesn't play, Mac Jones. Those are my predictions. Move the mic. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up for our first ever episode of the Semi-Average podcast. Let me get y'all's thoughts down below if you have anything you wanted to say, any thoughts, anything you disagree with me, anything you want to add. I'm open to it. Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter, my personal Twitter, Rigley Willis. You can follow me on the Semi-Average Instagram, which has just been started. I'm going to type it right here, the exact username, just in case. But it is semi-average.wave. So hopefully we'll boost some followers there. I'm going to be promoting little snippets on Twitter everywhere. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up. I'm really excited to get this started. I will see you guys on Wednesday. Oh, and